American Bank's 4th down on 4.
I mean, if I'm in this situation right now and I'm Sean Payton, I'm going for the record. I'm not going for the win because I don't think that Drew Brees has got the arm strength to get in the end zone from here.
Panthers rush 3. Here's Brees gunning the ball downfield, and it is incomplete in the direction of Lance Moore. So that's how the season ends, with the Saints that short on the scoreboard, with Drew Brees that short of Dan Marino's record in a season in which expectations truly have fallen short.
It is Sunday night, and this is 4th down on 4. And I'm Juan Kincaid, and those are the 3 most hated words for Saints fans right now: come up short. It really does sum up what this team has put on the field this season, a very average 8-8 team. And that's a shame because it overshadows the year that Drew Brees had, nearly record-breaking. But the Saints QB would gladly give back some of those 5,000-plus yards for just a few more late-game victories. It was the final chapter of a book we've had to read over and over again this season. The feel of a Saints victory replaced by another agonizing defeat. What took place on Porter Street today was nothing new, just another reminder of just how far this team has to go to become a playoff football team again. And as the players put it, it begins with learning how to finish a game.
You go back to the first game of the year, Tampa Bay. You know, we finished that game by Fajita getting interceptions. You know, I think there's numerous games, this one in that we didn't have. We had opportunity to finish it, but we just didn't finish it off.
What we had were a pair of teams headed in opposite directions. Carolina, playoff berth clinched, trying to wrap up the division title. The Saints once again left to ponder what woulda, coulda, shoulda, with the only things to play for being pride and a record for their quarterback, with the latter nearly happening out of necessity, because as has been the case all season long, the Saints fell behind early, rallied in the second half, only to lose it in the waning seconds of the game.
Looked up and saw 30-10 going into the 4th quarter, and I thought, you know, we can do this. And obviously there's no better time than right now. And we got the touchdown to Meacham, and then came back and got the one to Lance, and then obviously the go-ahead one to Lance, and it just felt like we did exactly what we set out to do and what we knew we could do.
As for Brees, what else can you say? He threw it 49 times, had 386 yards passing, but missed breaking the record by just 16 yards.
Once the game ended and we walked in here, and somebody asked me how close I was, and I said, I have no idea, and I started thinking back and said, I wonder if, you know, had we completed that last one, if that would have made a difference. But I guess, like I said before, I guess it wasn't meant to be.
Nor was this victory or any other close one the Saints have let slip away this season. Last year, the hard lesson learned was you can't expect what happened the year before to carry over. Tonight, it's all about self-evaluation, from the players to the coaching staff. No one is immune to criticism, and no one should be surprised with the changes that are about to come.
We've shown flashes, like I said, of being better than average, and other times where we weren't. So everyone's going to look long and hard at everything this offseason, and just got to find a way to come back and you know, get back in the hunt.
Just a few notes on Drew Brees' historic season. He came up 16 yards shy of Dan Marino's record, but his 5,069 yards passing were second most in NFL history. He broke the franchise record for touchdown passes in a season with 34, eclipsing the mark of 28 he set a year ago. He threw the ball over 40 times in a game, 8 times this season. The bad news is that the Saints were 2-6 in those games. For the season, he threw it 635 times. That's 18 times less than last year. Brees threw for over 3,300 yards in a game 10 times this year, tying an NFL record. And amazingly, he was only sacked 13 times this season. A credit to his O-line, but more so his quick release and instincts in the pocket. Congrats to Drew Brees on a fantastic season. So we got ourselves an 8-8 football team, and WWL Radio Bobby Hebert is here with us now. We talk about this football team, and you know, Drew Brees said it best in his post-game interviews. He said sometimes you got to go through the bad to discover the good. Is that what we say about this football team now? But this franchise has been through a lot of bad in the years. It's time for some good, isn't it?
Well, you know what Drew Brees has experienced. You know, his first year, 06, was unbelievable, one game away from the Super Bowl. But you'd have to say that it's just average. Yeah. I mean, whether you look at the coaching staff, the players are even a little below average. They would have had to beat Carolina to be 16-16 the past 2 seasons. So just a little bit below average. It's been very frustrating. It's just a roller coaster, type season where you win one, you lose one. It's just very frustrating. And until the defense gets better, I think that's the kind of team we're going to see week in and week out.
We heard a lot of players from the locker room afterwards say, we're much better than an 8-8 record. But it is what it is, as Sean Payton would say. It's an 8-8 football team. It's an average team that only won back-to-back games once this year.
Juan, the old saying is that good teams find a way to win, no matter how it is. I mean, look at the close losses they've had, and it's so frustrating. I mean, just look at, we focus on the defensive backs, on the safety play as far as stopping the big pass play. We can look back, the interference call in the Vikings game. Look what happened against the Bears, and then look what happened against Carolina. It just so happens that whenever there's 25-plus yards, that they're confident, our opponent, that, two good things are going to happen to us. Not on the defensive side. We're not going to get an interception and completion. We're either going to make the catch or they're going to call interference on the Saints, and that's what seems like the case as of late.
Well, if you look back at the offseason, going into training camp in Jackson, there's so much hype surrounding this football team. They get Shockey in there. It should be a great pickup. But maybe the expectations from us, the media, from the fans, maybe a bit too high for this football team that was coming off its first playoff trip in a long, long time.
Well, the expectations, it wasn't just the homers or us in Louisiana or the NFL. So, the national media. It's 2 years in a row that they picked the Saints to win the NFC South and possibly represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So when you don't live up to the expectations, obviously everyone's going to be disappointed, and I think that's why fans are so frustrating. And to me, it just goes to show you, I don't care how talented, how great Drew Brees is, you have to have a championship defense. Yep. If you look, we've addressed the offensive side of the ball now in the offseason, whether it's free agency or the draft. Defense.
It's time to stop that.
We have enough weapons on offense. We have to address the defense in order to have a chance to win a championship.
I want to talk about that because we talk about this team all year long. I think Drew Brees said it best, it seems like 10 games, but it really hasn't been that many. But there have been a number of games where they needed to stop late in the game. Today they got it one time to get the ball back and get the game go-ahead touchdown. But when they need to get a stop, keep them out of field goal range. This team can't get a stop, and that's really what it comes down to this season, whether it be the Redskins game or the Vikings game, and you name it, the Bears game. They can't get a stop and get off the field. It goes back to defense.
Right, it goes back to defense. And even one, as great an offense as we've had under Drew Brees and Coach Payton, you look number one the first year, last year number 4, we back to number 1. Crucial third down conversions when the game's on the line. Crucial stops on defense when the game's on the line. Realistically, I mean, it's old cliche, a fine thin line between success and failure. But 2 games, at Atlanta, at Carolina, were really, you got outplayed, didn't have a chance. But other than that, it's not too far-fetched. You could say, you know what? What's so frustrating, this team could be 11-5 and 12-4. I think that's what's so frustrating is because it's not like, oh, we got a bad team. No, we're right there. And you know what? But looking into next year, having to play the NFC East, AFC East, and then I think Carolina's going to be right there. You got young running backs and how they're structured, and you got Matt Ryan with the Falcons.
It's going to be tough.
Tampa Bay might take a step back, but other than that, I mean, the NFC South is going to be right in the thick of things next year.
Perhaps worse the first for the Saints. Let's talk about Drew Brees real quickly. The one positive going into this game, and one thing we were looking for is hopefully he would break Dan Marino's record for passing yards, 16 yards shy. As a quarterback, is there a number in your head you got to get to when you go on that final drive? You know where you are, don't you?
Well, I don't know exactly if Drew knew the exact yardage, but you're running a Hail Mary type play. What that is, you send 3 receivers straight up the field and you try and pop it up. Looks like Lance Moore was hanging back for the tip ball. Almost if Drew could have told Lance, you know what? Go about 20, 25 yards and cut in, because there's a big old void in the middle. Then he could have caught the ball, and so what? If you toss it around, you fumble, you're still going to get the yardage. That's just so frustrating. It just seems like, oh, no, here we go again. Same old Saints. Wait till next year. We're right on the cuffs of breaking an unbelievable record. Drew Brees and Dan Marino, it just doesn't happen. And I knew it would take that type of performance, trying to play catch-up and having to throw the ball 45 to 60 times if you're truly going to get 400 yards.
Yeah, 40 times throwing the ball this season. Saints have been pathetic at that. Much more. Bobby Hebert, our guest here on 4th Down on 4. Stay with us. More to come when 4th Down returns. If it was his home finale, Deuce went out like a pro. We'll recap number 26's day in the Dome. Plus, with Chris Paul's